Lightweight, baby! Go, baby! Go! Arnold Schwarzenegger hates... What can we say his name? So Big Arnie hates modern bodybuilding. Let's go, I would say. Shall we?
We have to find our sweet spot. I don't know exactly the answer, but I mean, I think that the sport should work diligently towards that goal.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, 7 times Mr. Olympia champion and undoubtedly the greatest bodybuilder of all time, slammed bodybuilding in a recent speech. When Arnold, who has done more for the world of bodybuilding than any other on the planet, speaks passionately about the future of bodybuilding, we pay attention. So why is Arnold turning on his own? Why would he slap his fellow bodybuilders across the face like this?
Well, maybe because recently a lot of pro bodybuilders, especially in the heavyweight division, so above 212 class, have died, and confusing circumstances. So we
Has he become so engrossed in his own success that he's forgotten his roots and love of bodybuilding? Is he jealous of the new breed of bodybuilders taking the cheers and adulation that was once his? Far from it.
I think that the sport of bodybuilding is at a crossroads. I think that the sport of bodybuilding could go through the roof and accepted by the general public in a huge way.
Actually, it has been already accepted. It was on TV, but it was then gotten away, or it was taken away from public TV, because the broad mass doesn't want to see like this huge masculine monster, these freaks. People want to see like aesthetic bodies. So also the bikini classes for the women came in, or 212 division came in, where the people or the men are not so muscular anymore. It's more pleasing to the public. So that's because it's all revolving around money, you know, guys. If you don't have a sponsor for an event, you can't put that event to the place. So you need to have a sponsor, you need to have people to watch it, so the sponsor can get more sales. So it's all a circle about money.
And become part of the Olympics, become an Olympic sport, and be on television and be in everything. Or it regresses.
Arnold wasn't great for bodybuilding because he simply had an amazing physique, or even that he'd held the top titles in bodybuilding for so long. He pretty much owned an entire decade single-handedly. No, he was great for bodybuilding because he made it mainstream. Before Arnold, bodybuilding was just a freak show. It wasn't widely accepted, and it was completely misunderstood. Bodybuilding was relegated to dark, dank dungeons, basements, and people's garages. The public thought gym...
The Arnold Classics was the first, big competition in the US. So if you wanted to have your pro card in bodybuilding, you needed to win Arnold Classics. I think in Dallas or somewhere it was. I can't really remember. There was a handful of there was maybe 2 or 3 other options that you could get a pro card in bodybuilding. But now Arnie does it on every continent. So the option to get a pro card is a little bit lessened. I'm not saying that it's easy or easier. I don't want to disrespect the bodybuilders that put in 2 hours a day of full hardcore training, going to work, maybe get to bed at 7, standing up in the middle of the night just to get the training in, looking at nutrition, supplements, all that. I don't want to disrespect them, but it maybe has gotten a little bit easier.
Were just hangout places where semi-clad sweaty men grunted and groaned while flexing their bulging muscles to the mirrors as they lifted weights.
Bruh. Ridiculous.
He showed America and the whole world a different image of gyms and bodybuilding. He was intelligent, charismatic, witty, funny, and dedicated. It wasn't just his physique that was larger than life, his personality was too. This was just...
Yeah, and you see now there, personality is what sells, and that's why he had so much success.
What bodybuilding needed. His appearance in the movie documentary Pumping Iron catapulted bodybuilding into the accepted normal mainstream. But Arnold's contribution to bodybuilding is under threat. Bodybuilding is again becoming a dirty word. Once more, there is a social stigma associated with the word bodybuilding. People now think of bodybuilding as a world of steroids use, drug-induced, ridiculously muscle-bound behemoths with a narcissistic swagger in tiny little trunks. Now, don't get us wrong, there's a lot to admire in these guys and girls as well.
Baby.
They're also incredibly dedicated, focused, hardworking, and intelligent. Even their pure muscularity is in itself amazing, especially to those of us who actually understand that despite the drugs, they have to work their asses off and are genetically gifted.
Yeah, that's what people don't get about bodybuilding. They think as soon as you take steroids, you're going to explode muscular-wise. But it's not the case. You even have to get more into nutrition, more into supplements. You have to get more rest. It's all much more complicated. For sure, you're doing harm to your body, and it's everybody's own decision if he or she wants to do this. But we shouldn't say just because somebody's taking steroids or performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, it's easier. It's not. It's actually the opposite.
But the current breed of bodybuilders just don't inspire normal people to be like them. They are just mass monsters. huge beyond all proportion,
With that,
freaks.
simply not to look at all the Instagram bodybuilders.
Don't consider this look at all attractive or appealing. Most girls we talk to use words like gross and disgusting to describe the bodybuilder's aesthetic. One blog we read rightly stated that most people don't even grasp the pure scale and proportion of these guys. We think Arnold sees this all too clearly, and he recently lashed out at the judging of current top bodybuilding events for scoring athletes highly who are turning up looking disproportionate.
Like it was in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Back again to become a subculture where it's only for a limited amount of characters. I think we worked very hard to get it out of that in the 70s, and we were successful in convincing people that this is a beautiful body.
Bodybuilding used to place great emphasis on symmetry as well as pure muscularity. But somewhere along the way, bodybuilders slowly got judged more on being massive than proportionate.
It's like the same in almost any niche. It's like faster, higher, more massive. It's going all the way into the extreme because it's going to be boring otherwise. And this is what people don't like to see anymore, I think. So Chris Thompson, for me, for example, is a really good looking, handsome man. So I think bodybuilding is going more into this direction also on Urs Kalaczynski from Germany. They're not like these massive monsters anymore. There's a debate about Urs going into the open division, but we'll see in the future.
That are being used now creates huge, bloated, and ridiculously protruding stomachs. It's funny when you look at all the images of these massively distended stomachs to think the sport let this happen. In our humble opinion, we believe that bodybuilding should emphasize amazing physiques that are almost without flaw, and we can see a pretty big flaw here. Back in Schwarzenegger's day, the 1970s and before,
man, his name in English is so ridiculous.
They had great physiques, muscular, powerful, athletic, and proportionate. They made the human body look beautiful, like a piece of art, a sculpture of the perfect human body. As Arnold put it, I ask myself always the question as a judge, whose body do I want to have? That's what it comes down to, absolutely. This is exactly the reason I don't follow professional bodybuilding. Even if I could, I wouldn't want to have the body of a modern pro bodybuilder. They seem grotesque and disproportionate.
The bodybuilders and the professional sport of bodybuilding has gone the next step. But now, just as people got used to buying in that this is a beautiful body, where all of a sudden the body does not look as acceptable. So therefore, when you look at the stage, simply because it's too big, it's too enormous, and it doesn't have any talent behind it. Flips and splits and posing and dynamics and great looks and choreographed things that is so entertaining. You see performances that will make you just say, oh my God, how did they do that? That you can easily sell on television.
Let me ask you, which of the following bodies do you consider to look more beautiful and athletic?
Oh yeah, let's go.
For us, it's a no-brainer. We take the body of a 1970s bodybuilder, Frank Zane for anyone who wants to know, every day of the week. Time and time again, they just look better. Sure, they use steroids at that stage, but they still looked right. As Arnold says, it doesn't look right anymore. This is unacceptable the way bodybuilding is going. We don't want to see the biggest man up there. We want to see the most beautiful man, the most athletic man up there on stage. Hallelujah.
But when you have guys come out one after the next to just go, they barely can get their breath.
Have you seen Ronnie Coleman in the locker room in the police office where he used to work, where he tries to put out the vest and his shirt? It's like, it's looking ridiculous because he can't even get his hands like properly to his back anymore because his shoulders were like that massive, like the size of my head. It's just ridiculous, but yeah.
Together, and then the stomach hangs out, and then they hit the shot, and the neck is 23 inches. And the calves are 18. The proportion is gone in order to be a champion. In the old days, you always had to bring something else to the table. I think that we will have more and more people shy away from that and say, I don't want to look like that. If it continues this way.
Arnold also mentions the vacuum pose and how none of the current bodybuilders can stand up on stage and pull in their stomach, put their shoulders out, and look athletic. Imagine the dramas this would and should cause if the current lineup of bodybuilders had to hold this as a mandatory pose. Frank Zane and all the old top-level bodybuilders could do it back in the 1970s. Arnold has rightfully called out the bodybuilding judges to judge all of the body and change the judging procedure. The judges need to consider everything, not just who has the thickest neck and the biggest muscles. It's as much about the aesthetics, the symmetry, and the beauty of the human body that needs to be encouraged and promoted. In Arnold's words, We need to make sure that we are rewarding the right guys, because if you reward the right guys, then everyone will start training to have a beautiful body again rather than to have the powerlifting body. Never a truer word was spoken. Arnold went further, encouraging public action in fitness magazines, the internet, and any forum or media possible to call out these guys to create change.
That's true to a certain degree, but when you want to reward those guys, then you reward maybe people that don't really have done something for it, because muscle size, where your biceps is attached to your arm, you can't change. So that's with always, if you have like this peak in the biceps, like Arnold did have, then you are just gifted. Some other people maybe don't have it, so they will never achieve those peaks. They maybe have flatter biceps, but it's also going to be huge. But if you then set that standard to, we want this peaked biceps, you're also eliminating a lot of people because they physically can't even have this. It's genetics. Bodybuilding is all about genetics.
Then we will go through the roof. It will be unstoppable. You know, the selling of magazines and the food supplements and all of the stuff. So I hope that we find that sweet spot, because bodybuilding is just such an extraordinary activity, such an extraordinary sport.
Ultimately, it will come down to pressuring a forced change to the currently flawed judging process. Judges need to set guidelines that reward the physiques the community wants to see. If the guys with the big distended stomachs and disproportionately shaped bodies stop placing in the top 10, they will quickly need to get their acts into gear. Bodybuilding can get back to displaying visually striking, appealing, and awe-inspiring bodies again.
Yeah, that's true. The public says what they want to see, because when the public doesn't want to see these huge masculine monsters anymore, like Marcus Ruhl, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, or whatever, all the cool neo-body bodybuilders, then also the sponsors are going to get away from this. If the sponsors go away, then also the competitions and the people can't make any money out of it anymore. So ultimately going to shift eventually. So I'm now curious about you. Do you go to the gym? Do you train your muscles to get stronger? And if you don't, maybe this video here is a good place to start, where you can learn the best exercises for the gym. Let's go. Let's see you there.